right now we're on digital infrastructure, where these days businesses of all sizes are looking to cloud computing as means to more efficiently deliver IT services to users. Cloud-based solutions offer a cost-effective way to maintain high availability and reliability for user applications, especially if they support remote workers, telecommuters, or field-based teams. Ladies and gentlemen, now for the Cloud Data Protection panel discussion, which is on cloud security and data protection. When we're looking at covering ease data complexity, provide a central access point, bring greater data visibility, lessen legal and regulatory risk, and save costs, security techniques for both software and hardware aspects for protecting data and cloud, general privacy challenges and the GDPR specific challenges, cloud compliance with intelligent context-aware AI, and enforce segmentation and threat controls for workloads in IaaS, PaaS, SaaS environments. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists joining us in this panel discussion are Shashank Bajpai, Chief Information Security Officer, ECGC. Well, Shashank has a subject matter expert in technology and security compliance for financial services in India, Middle East, and APAC. Ladies and gentlemen, we're also joined by Mansi Thapar, the head of information security IT leader, Jaguar Group. Well, Mansi is an innovator, speaker, motivator, strategic planner, implementer with 20 years of experience in verticals of IT, be it SDLC, information security, program management, and operations. We're also joined by Mayuresh Purandare, the head of IT infrastructure and cybersecurity, Marico Limited. Well, Mayuresh has over 14 years of experience in various roles such as IT transformation lead, cybersecurity lead, ITSM lead, working closely with various business stakeholders for their digital transformation needs. Also, we're joined by Sheikh J. Ahmad, the head of information security, Renault Nissan Technology and Business Center India. Well, Sheikh J. Ahmad is a cybersecurity leader and an armed force veteran with over 25 years of rich experience in defense and corporate sectors in cyber operations, digital security, and cyber threat management. Also, this entire conversation and panel discussion is going to be moderated by Jackson Fernandez, the Vice President and Group CISO, Adani Group. Well, Jackson possesses a tenured experience of over 20 years with domains of cybersecurity, enterprise risk management, and business continuity over a diverse geographical expanse, namely the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I present to you our esteemed panel on your stage and screen, requesting our panelists now to switch on their cameras and unmute themselves. Thank you all for joining us on the World Cloud Show. What an exciting panel discussion this is going to be. Thank you once again for joining us. Also, to the audience who's viewing us live, if you may have any questions directed to our eminent panelists today, do type it in the Q&A tab, wherein after the panel is done, we're going to be passing it on to our moderator, Jackson, for taking it forward with his eminent panel. So Jackson, with this, I'd now pass it on to you for taking it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Bhavna, and thank you to the Trescon Global team for having us on this panel. I would like to welcome all of the panelists. We briefly met yesterday about it. And thank you once again for being present here to give your thoughts on this important subject. I would like to start by asking Mr. Sheikh. I mean, great. I mean, we've heard all of our panelists before this session. They talked about cloud and how the digital journey and everything is happening. Great. We moved to the cloud. We've bitten into that silver bullet, and now we are safe and secure, right? Should we now forget everything, sleep easy? Your thoughts, Mr. Sheikh?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Bhavna, and thanks, Jackson, for this wonderful discussion, and thanks for this opportunity to be with this August panelist in this discussion. And good morning and good afternoon to everyone, as per the timing. And Jackson, like as you rightly said, it's not like we already beaten this silver bullet and we are done with the whatever it is happening, like in terms of securing our data over the cloud. So now, like, we need to take a deeper look into how we can secure the migrated data onto the cloud and the applications and the services. Majorly, like we need to bring in the aspect of securing the applications hosted onto the platforms, and especially like saying identity and accesses and authorizations are in place or not. And parallelly, like we need to have a layer of zero trust, like kind of a approach we need to adhere to, wherein that like everything related to cloud or like hosted platforms, from the data perspective, from the application perspective, from the networking perspective, or from access perspective, is untrusted, and only based on the proved authorization it will be allowed to have the access. So this is my 2 cents onto this one, Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Sheikh. If I could direct this question at you, Mansi. I mean, Mr. Sheikh brought up some interesting concepts with regards to identity and access management, zero trust and everything. Mindful of the fact that all of this digital transformation has happened during COVID time, do you think organizations have had that liberty to do all of these things, or did we just pick up our bags and run to the cloud?
Hi, Jackson. How are you? Good morning to everybody. So basically, I agree with you that I think we had another panel some few days back where we discussed that we all ran to the cloud. And first and foremost, I would want everybody to take a step back. Okay, now we went to the cloud. That was a difficult period. Security took a back seat. But now I think the first and foremost thing we should really look at is the security SLAs of the cloud provider. Like what are that is something we should again revisit and see that what are their responsibilities, how are they managing their resilience, because we are seeing that people are getting hacked left, right, and center. My security piece will come, but yes, moving to the cloud, what benefits have I got from security side? Are you providing me layer 3, layer 4, layer 7? What kind of benefits are already available so that I can build up on that? So I would say that my first point will be always look at what SLAs they are providing. Second, I think mostly which most of the people lose is that as you rightly said, we are on the cloud and we are safe. It's not that. So you need to see that as I said earlier, that okay, he must be only securing your infrastructure layer. Now it is your responsibility to secure your application, your user access management and stuff like that. So work with your provider, and if you're integrating a third party, then they should be in sync with the cloud provider. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of problems. So that is my take on it, where security is concerned in the cloud.
Thank you very much, Mansi. I think it's wonderful points. These are some of the areas that the audience, whoever is hearing and who have a cloud migration strategy or have already embarked on it, I think these are areas that you need to look back and see. Gentlemen's word, great friends and everything. At the end of the day, the contract is king. So if you don't have your SLA, it's not there.
Exactly. So, you summarized it well.
Absolutely. And I mean, we have this thought, yes, we've done an amazing digital transformation. Manish, coming to you, I mean, pardon for using the term, we said we picked up our bags and ran to the cloud. But it's not like we shifted everything to the cloud, right? We left a lot of stuff like, where is the reality is that where is all this data lying? It's not only lying in the cloud that we are talking about, it's still lying on our on-prem servers. It's lying on our file servers, on our laptops, on somebody's mobiles, on somebody's portable hard disk. Somebody has decided to take a backup. So, how do we go about getting a visibility around this complexity of where all this data is lying? Your thoughts on it, Mayuresh?
Sure. Thanks, Jackson. I think you have raised a very valid point. There are too many connectors to the data. Some are on-premise, some are on cloud. And I'll tell you some examples. Probably they might help the larger people to see what all use cases can come and how they can be addressed, right? So, when we packed our bags and we ran to the cloud, mainly we actually did a lot of digital transformation during that period where we wanted to reach out to the consumers, right? So one part of the entire digital transformation was reaching out to the consumer when people are sitting at home, how they can be given the services or the products when they are sitting at home. So the data related to the consumers is one aspect of it. Second aspect is the entire digital workforce, right? They were happily using everything on premise, and now they are moving to working from home or working from somewhere else to access the data, right? So, so in that context, when we moved So actually in Marico, we did a lot of new site rollouts where we can directly sell to the consumers, right? And that is where our entire data started moving to cloud, while our old ERP systems, the line of business applications, that data still reside on the on-premise. So that is where we all are hybrid when it comes to the customer data. And now, one of the things that we are now looking at is kind of creating a common data lake, which can connect to both, so that that data is accessible to the other line of business analytics, or the other transactional systems, right? Where that data can be used. So that is where the cloud and on-prem is kind of getting married together. When it comes back to the sales force or the field force or the workers, as you rightly mentioned, people were largely accustomed to file servers, right? So how can we migrate them to cloud storages such as corporate Google Drives or the corporate OneDrive for businesses? So that is actually a culture change, and we actually ran a lot of those campaigns to change that culture, because people are still used to having data on premise or on the file servers, right? So how do we log the data on the file level, and how can we migrate that to the cloud and use it safely? So that is something we tried doing it during this pandemic.
Thank you, Mayuresh. I mean, interesting points that you've raised. I mean, also, I mean, we're looking at a hybrid situation now with regards to where data is still lying. And Shank, I mean, Mayuresh has raised some interesting points around, how it is still hybrid, and he's making a lake. Are you working on an ocean, and what is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so thanks, Jackson, for that. And thank you, Touchcon, for this panel discussion also. But yeah, and coming to from a data perspective, data visibility, as you rightly said, is a huge challenge, especially when digitization has taken a step ahead in at least in financial services. What we see is every now and then there are new teams trying to leverage Tableau and this and that, so many SaaS products, and they just want to upload the data, get some MIS reports, and publish it to the senior management. The better the presentation, the better is the kind of presentation kind of event which they kind of derive. And they try to leverage lots of software tools which are available nowadays. And the problem is, with regards to lots of regulations as well as lots of compliance which we have to adhere to. That is one of the things which is always on my mind, and I try to push this into the business hands basically. But it is at their end as to involve us to take the right product at the right time, because they might start putting data into some other geographical location which we don't have control over, or we don't have, as Mansi also said, SLAs. We don't have any SLA of their service, and then at the moment we want to purge our data, they would just deny that. Or if there is some third party audit which has to be conducted, and they are not allowing us to do that audit. So these are some of the key things which have to be looked into while sharing that data. And it is data visibility and shadow IT are go hand in hand, because once this decentralization or defederation of IT products or IT solutions happen, the marketing team have got their own solutions, the digital campaign is running with their own tools. It just becomes decentralized completely. There is no federal structure. As Sheikh was also saying that it has to abide by all those rules and regulations, but it does not happen that way. So there are key challenges onto cloud and data visibility onto the cloud. Having said that, they have also started leveraging a lot of security tools, security products, on cloud. And what we are seeing nowadays is even they are not safe, the security products. A lot of hacking community is not targeting them, rather than targeting crown jewels or corporate data. So they are also now in the line of fire. So it is equally challenging as to whether go for a cloud security product or not, or have to have everything on premise, which is challenge in itself to manage and operate.
Thank you very much, Shashank. I mean, interesting points that you've raised about securing data on the cloud. Actually, my follow-up question coming to Mansi again was along those lines. But before I have some thoughts with you, Mansi, I just remembered a conversation, gentlemen and Mansi, where I had with a friend a few days ago, where he said, I mean, it's the leakage that you mentioned of the data from the cloud is so frequent nowadays that everybody's asking, and it's beyond just the cybersecurity and information security community. It's our business leaders who are asking these questions. So a friend of mine told me that his CEO came and asked him, "Hey, is our S3 buckets all secured?" And he said, "Yes, sir." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "We don't have any S3 buckets. We're all in the Azure cloud." Even though because of this also, he says that at least I didn't have the heart to tell him no, because I wanted him to be concerned about cybersecurity. Finally, people are taking notice. So coming to you, Mansi, I mean, for this data that's in the cloud, what are the controls that we're going to put into place so that we ensure segmentation? And because we're going to have hybrid, not only like Mayuresh said with on-prem, but also within the cloud, the IaaS, the PaaS, the SaaS. So how do we put in those threat controls into place on the cloud? Your thoughts?
Firstly, I would agree with you, Jackson, that words like hacking and virus and all, it was all for IT earlier. Now, 2 years back, it is on the management's. Management is speaking more than we are. So I agree with you completely. They are very, very focused where security is concerned. Yeah, see, where data is concerned, I would agree with what both the panelists said, that people, process, and technology, we need to really, get these three things inbuilt to get the data, security working. One is, yes, of course, we need to have people buy in. They need to understand what is the importance of data. The data classification, good data classification tool is one thing which we should really look at, so that people also know what is my confidential data, what is okay for being on the public, and they can what needs extra security. Second, on the cloud specifically, I would say that, as Shashank mentioned, the shadow IT. We really need to have some good automated tools in place, which can, we can audit and find out what are the shadow IT softwares which are coming in, and then close if something is not required, but it was, done something. Or if some department is not been educated on the security on whatever products they are putting in, we can, pitch in and go into our advisory and work on those tools. Thirdly, as I said, the tool is done, people is done, then you should have good, robust, governance around it. That is very important. The processes that, again, awareness is a big part, but yes, how are we governing the data? So I agree with the first panelist when he said that we should have a centralized data management lake if possible. That is the best way to do it. But yes, that is a bit risky also, because then every entire data is there on your data lake. If that gets breached, then you are in a big fix. But I would say that yes, but at least that is your crown jewel, right? So you can put in more controls, and more budget can go across protecting that data lake. So I think yes, classification is very important, and centralization of data.
Thank you very much, Mansi. I mean, you brought up another, I mean, you do it, you're damned. You don't do it, you're damned. So you have to take a stand and you have to move ahead. So coming back to you, Mr. Sheikh, I mean, some of these things with regards to what techniques can be used for protecting the data. There is a debate about how effective each side is, whether it's secure, software related security, or should we do hardware security to protect all this on the cloud? Should we leave it up to the CSP, or should we also have some sort of a segregation of responsibility around protecting this data, so we ensure that we are not at the mercy of the CSPs around this? So I would like to solicit your thoughts about this.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. And this is a very important aspect of the cloud security, and especially around data protection in the cloud environments. And rightly said, like right now, data is like costlier than the dollars. Like we need to have that appreciation done to the data security and data protection. And I rightly agree with the earlier panelist who rightly mentioned about a couple of organizations centralizing their data into the data lakes. And we shall start with data classification first from the software techniques, or the the initiation of protecting the data onto the cloud platforms. We shall start with classifying what we have inside the organization, and we need to understand what is our crown jewels, as Mansi mentioned. Like we need to know where are our hard eggs are stored, kind of a thing. And then we need to identify our the sensitive data, and we need to do the encryption for the data which is at rest, which is moving around the from on-prem and from into out kind of a thing, from the hosted platforms to the different the processes, for different processes for the accessing and for processing and for storing kind of a thing. Kind of a dynamic data security, especially around encryption standards we need to adopt. To answer your question from the hardware or software aspects of data protection, like we need to employ both a combination of a software techniques to identify, anonymize and tokenize the data, and parallelly encrypt the data with the hardware equipments wherever we required to secure the data kind of a thing. And on top of it, like this is not the end of data protection into the cloud hosted platforms. We need to have the compliance, compliance and self-learnings brought into the kind of a gamut of data protection onto the hosted platforms, and create a mechanism to rightly alert and remediate those alerts, and parallelly monitor every aspect of data, especially kind of a logs, protection, collection, analysis and archiving for the entire data into the data lake and out of the data lake kind of a thing. So this gives us a control over the entire life cycle of data, especially when we have a hybrid platforms, and especially when we have kind of a centralized data lakes for multiple cloud platforms, as Mayuresh mentioned and Manasi has ensured this thing. Over to you, Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Sheikh. Mayuresh, if I could ask you to add to what Mr. Sheikh said, keeping in mind that some of the protection around this data relies on, again, parties that are this thing. We might be segregating that responsibility of how we protect the data, but do we really trust all of this? Because we know that how attackers are getting closer to, the hardware aspect of it. The supply chain security risk is a reality in today's world that people are going back there. So what are your thoughts, and what would you like to add to what Mr. Sheikh said?
Sure. So I think one of the points that you raised was how much do we rely on the CSP, right? So CSPs are basically your vendors. And in my view, your vendors are as good as you. They cannot be better than you, right? Because they are the ones who you're outsourcing something to, right? So you won't believe, in last 6 months, when we were migrating more and more things to cloud, right? Our ISMS policy was getting changed probably twice or thrice in a month, right? Because that is where you are actually creating more and more processes for the CSPs to work with you under your ISMS, right? So that is a kind of a governance is something that we should look at when it comes to managing the CSPs on cloud. Secondly, to add, on cloud, there are a lot of cloud management APIs which are available. So probably, one of the things that we did is we use SIEM tool, which is a QRadar. So we actually integrated our CASB solution logs through the APIs to the SIEM, so that what Sheikh was mentioning, right? You should monitor, right? How do you monitor? Because it's a vast data, and today, to be honest, nobody knows how to read the CASB logs. It's a new technology, right? It's still evolving, right? So how can we make sense out of those logs is only when you try and analyze it more and more with the help of your SOC and SIEM tools. So that is how you can combine these things together. That's what in my view.
All right. If you don't mind, Mayuresh, I would just like to see if please consider the opinion also. Are we saying that, let's say, our partners are not better than us, or are we not asking them for something better than what we think it is? Because sometimes the argument could be that because I didn't ask, because I tell this to a lot of people, we accept the consultants or the partners will give us the quality that we are ready to accept. So we are not holding our partners' feet to the fire. You're probably not going to get much. So do you think is it that we've forgotten to ask those things? That is why we are not getting it? Or is it the incapability of the vendor or the partner?
See, in my view, Jackson, the partner is good. The only thing is we need to derive good out of that partner, right? So you
Understood.
know how you ask. Your ask should be as specific as possible and as controlled as possible. So that's where your policies come in picture. If you yourself do not have any policy, the partner will not or CSP will not come and say no, you must do it. They will propose, but at the end, accept or reject is something up to you, or create your own architecture around those is something we need to drive as a own company.
Absolutely. Thank you for the clarification. Moving on ahead, Shashank, I would like to come to you with regards to this. I mean, this point was raised briefly earlier, and like to delve deeper into this particular point. Privacy challenges. We know what's happening. The Indian organizations are gearing up and getting prepared for the PDP whenever it happens, maybe this coming year, and everybody is just wondering what it's going to bring for us. So, in all of this rush that we are doing with the digital transformation, the cloud migration, and all of this, should Indian companies stick to India with regards to the cloud migration, or are we worrying too much about it? Your thoughts?
Jackson. So I would basically, come on the privacy part, but continuing to what Mayuresh told with regards to, which came to my mind was, APIs, and which one of the things which was, having monitoring visibility. But these APIs are another one of the, big shadow IT kind of a business, wherein some business user comes in saying that this particular API. We just need to enable this particular API, and these are now becoming like firewall change requests. Earlier, which we used to handle, now they are API change requests, or lot of many APIs from the business teams, from other operational teams, from partners, from vendors, and they are all talking in API nowadays, and which is huge visibility challenge and a monitoring challenge also. And coming to privacy part, privacy is. Somewhere I was, discussing, with a couple of security professionals, wherein they said that it is, privacy should be a matter of concern for the, end user, and that kind of education with regards to Indian, ownership or Indian mindset with regards to privacy ownership is something which is a huge challenge as to build up that, knowledge base or that know-how. And that level of education and awareness is also required for all end users, be it our corporate users or even our clients and end users. So we would definitely take regulations, try to implement the Indian PDP version of it, for compliance perspective, definitely on our shoulder. But how it is obeyed, how it is getting implemented, that would remain a huge challenge, because in GDPR we have seen a lot of websites now asking for cookie acceptance, which was not happening earlier. Our website would start asking that also, and they would readily click yes, rather than what exactly are we capturing, what user information are we sharing with our partners, or what are we leveraging, that is completely clueless to the end user. So I think that privacy in the real sense would be implemented only if the end users are aware, they have that ownership mindset as to what kind of data they are sharing with which kind of application, and that would basically just explode with 5G and other telecom revolutions, and this app business just going out of reach for all end users. So from the Indian mindset, it is very challenging. But we have seen a lot of firms, multinational companies implementing GDPR very full-fledged for their Indian operations, and they have been successful in doing that with regards to, because we don't have that many digital channels as of now. But that will be very very crucial for Indian companies to abide by the Indian law, whatever the PDP form comes into the production or comes into the light, basically. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shashank, for your thoughts. You said, right, the changes that will happen. One of the changes is that you will have to accept the cookies before you are browsing the site. It sounds like my kids, when they are installing a game, accept everything, even if it has to give our bank account details, it's okay, so long as they get to play the game. So it is probably a mindset that Indian consumers will have to change. Mansi, coming to you, I mean, while there are a lot of things that are still up in the air, I mean, organizations are potentially thinking that, what's the rush, let it come, we have time and everything. But do you think there is benefit in looking at some of the commonalities? I mean, we have something like the GAP, which is the generally accepted principles around privacy. So why not start working on those generally? Because we know those are commonalities no matter which part of the world you go to where privacy laws have been written, So do you think there is a benefit in taking some of these accepted principles around privacy and start working on them, maybe in terms of consent? Your thoughts on this, Mansi?
Yeah, Jackson, I completely agree. See, I would like to make a point here that privacy, that we are saying that PDP is coming and we have time. Our Indian Act already has a privacy part in it. I think it is section 42 or something. So privacy was already inbuilt in the Indian Act and companies are liable to do it. It's just that we are not getting serious about it. And secondly, as a Indian good company, we should have some good rules around like how are we protecting our citizens' data. So that is what all GDPR or any other privacy, regulation is all about. It's not so complex. Like there are some things, if you follow, 80% of your battle is done. So I can take a minute here and, there are only 4 or 5 good rules, which I talk as a data privacy professional in some of the forums. So the 5 things, or maybe, some things if we need to look at, is one is that you should have explicit consent if you are, taking data anywhere. So that is one point we should always just try to make it that wherever you are putting in personal data, you have an explicit consent, meaning that the user needs to tick it. You can't have an auto tick box there. Second, what I would say is always know where your personal data is lying and what is your retention period, and delete it if you don't need it. We are not taking care of that. If you delete it, it's better for you, because better for the organization. You don't need to manage so much of data. People are holding maybe 15-20 years of emails. In India, the compliance says, I think, 7 years. Then why do I need those emails? I can delete it. These kind of things we can really work on. Third is, of course, user awareness, as Shashank rightly mentioned. Fourth, I would say that yes, now, because even if the PDP comes in, it'll be very difficult for you to change your application in a year time or so, whatever the government gives you. So now if you're building up on any applications or you're going into a SaaS model, start discussing that how are they managing privacy, so that you are one step ahead of things. If you are designing an application, make sure you have a mechanism where you can easily pull out the personal data, because GDPR or any other PDP says that any customer, if he needs the data, you need to provide it to them. So it'll be easier for you if you have an auto mechanism already in place, rather than otherwise you'll have to put a team in place. So, proactiveness is always good. And I would say even if PDP comes next year or next to next year, these are some things which will really take your organization forward and, open you for globalization. Next time when you think that you need to open an office in Europe or Singapore, you don't need to think about it. You're already, compliant. So I think that we should really work on it. Yeah.
Just a slight follow-up question on that. So do you think that as Indian organizations, we should think of keeping our cloud migration restricted to the Indian geography, or are we still open to doing?
This is something I'm also debating in my mind since 6 months. But yes, again, if you have good classification of personal data, personal critical data, and you know where your inventory is lying, that decision will be very easy if something comes out. But I think India is also evolving where data centers is concerned. So why not, give the business to an Indian partner rather than taking it out? That is what I feel. But yes, I think it depends on organization to organization and what rules the Indian government brings in. But the panels I've been attending, it is going to be very tricky, and they would try to, push you to keep the data in India, especially the critical data. And which is true also, because nowadays we see there are so many, problems happening because the data is not in India. So I hope that comes in. I really feel that.
All right. Thank you very much, Mansi, for your thoughts. I mean, you did touch upon some of these areas, since especially the growth of cloud within India itself has given a lot of options to Indian organizations here to leverage within India itself. Mr. Sheikh, coming to you, I mean, PDP is just one of the compliance areas that we are looking at. I mean, we have a slew of compliances, especially if you are sectorial in nature. A particular organization has, if you're in healthcare, you might have to worry about HIPAA. If you do you process a lot of credit card information, then you look at PCI DSS. So compliance is a huge area itself. And a lot of cloud CSPs are getting into the act of doing cloud compliance. But again, now briefly touching on a topic which I sometimes joke about and tell people, this is like a matrimonial ad when you say that, I need a groom who is 6 feet tall, dark, handsome guy. AI, artificial intelligence. So everybody brings that to the table. So what role does AI have to play in this compliance, cesspool that we have with all these single organizations having to comply with a multitude of regulations? So do you see a role that AI plays in all of this compliance on the cloud? Your thoughts?
Yeah, Jackson, thank you very much for this wonderful question, and appreciate the lighter note on that one, matrimonial act. And very rightly said, this is a high time we shall bring artificial intelligence to compliance, sectorial compliance, as you mentioned, the right choice of word there. But I presume with my understanding of the industry and understanding about the technological landscape right now, somebody has mentioned a couple of minutes back, is not the system, but the ecosystem. Understanding the Indian diaspora of technological ecosystem, I don't presume the organizations are ready to adopt at an organizational level, not at a blanket industry level, but at an organizational level. 80% of Indian organizations are not ready to adopt artificial intelligence, especially for deploying compliance into the cloud. Not only, the artificial intelligence, we have at many stages, as a security practitioners and professional from the cyber industry, we all know how AI works when coming to anomaly detection and automated remediation kind of thing. Sometimes mid of the night, we'll get the calls to address and answer the priorities what AI has chosen and what my policy is talking about to remediate at that particular instance. So AI is good. I'll answer your question in three parts. Those CSPs are trying to bring in AI angle for securing the cloud and securing ensuring the compliance onto the hosted platforms, especially from the HIPAA or GDPR or SOX or PCI DSS or privacy related various compliance standards. But I presume that is kind of a customizable angle. Lot much of work need to be taken from the organizational perspective to make it viable for any organization. As I mentioned, not to restrict to the blanket adoption, plug and play kind of adoption in any organization, since every organizational needs and learning and practices are different. So we cannot go with the blanket kind of a thing for AI to have into the compliance remediation kind of a thing. And now, what is that we can adopt AI for? We can adapt it for asset discoveries, or we can adapt it for anomaly detection. We can take it for, as Mayuresh already mentioned, for SIEM and ticketing, ticket monitoring, or alerts and notifications, and sometimes the mitigation, automated remediation kind of a thing. And on top of it, majority of the banking organizations which are onto the hosted platforms right now has opened up their applications for open banking for the PSD2 compliance right now. So how about bringing the AI and burning our own hands kind of a thing without customizing the entire compliance imposition onto the open APIs? Is again a very debatable challenge, multifaceted challenge actually. So on top of how much AI can be brought into the organization? Yes, for understanding the context of user activities and user behavior entities and matrices, AI can be brought in. And for basically, if we have customers interacting on a high decibel bandwidth, then probably we can impose the AI for compliance, imposition kind of, I think, for the customer behaviors. and understanding and managing the entire life cycle of standards, especially around compliance, maybe PSC, DSS, or HIPAA, or anything XYG. And majorly, we can have the AI into network monitoring, and like I mean, say the any deviation monitoring kind of a thing around the data inflow and data outflow from the cloud. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Jackson. Yeah,
Thank you very much, Mr. Sheikh.
sure.
Mayuresh, same question to you, but let's try, if AI being what Mr. Sheikh said, maybe less understood animal than the other stuff that security or cybersecurity is usually knowledgeable about, and sticking specifically to compliance related. Of course, the applications of AI go much beyond just the compliance aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like Mr. has pointed out, you can do it on discovery, you can do it on monitoring, you can do it on a lot of things. You can reduce a lot of L1, L2 activities around these things. But if I have to hold you just to the compliance aspect of it, do you think that we are not asking these questions as organizations to CSPs because we are not aware of how AI is going to help us in compliance? Or do you think there is value in asking this?
Right. I think there is a great value in asking this. And I'll tell you the reason for that. When we were on premise, right, when we used to have the old SIEM solutions, right, what used to happen is you have a certain set of input log sources. You know what are the different out-of-box use cases. You just customize those use cases and implement your SIM. And then you probably hire 4 or 5 people who are the cybersecurity experts who can kind of use that SIEM and try and make sense out of the events, right? Now, when we are talking about agility of business, we are going to cloud every now and then. We are having a shadow IT, as many of you mentioned, right? In all of that, how many log sources would you integrate? How many, such agents would you, make sit so that they can make sense out of those logs? It's practically impossible, right? You cannot scale it up. Not only for us, even for the SOC providers. For them also, it is impossible to keep on hiring people just because the amount of logs are getting increasing, right? So it has a huge merit in looking at AI. And we, as a, let's say we are non-IT companies, right? We are running our own different businesses, and we are running IT departments of non-IT companies, right? So for such companies, we should always select a CSP or select a product which has a AI inbuilt. That will reduce a lot of false positives, a lot of effort of correlations, right? So I think in that aspect, I think AI is must when it comes to cloud security management.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayuresh, for your thoughts. And with this, I think we have run out of time, and I am getting cues from our organizers that while this has been wonderful and we can continue, we will have to unfortunately bring it down to a close. As we can see, we don't have questions as of now, but I'm sure the organizers will be gladly able to collect if you have any thoughts, and if any one of the panelists can provide answers or better insight, we will most happily do so. Just to sum up, I would like to thank all of the panelists, wonderful thoughts and ideas. So just because you move to the cloud, you're not secure. You still need to go back and look at, like Mansi said, the SLAs, the contracts, what have you. The complexity of the data is still hybrid. Mayuresh has touched on that, and so has Mr. Sheikh. It's all over the place. We have to make sure that we start looking at everything, the hybrid environment that we are operating in, like Shashank brought to the table. With regards to privacy, we talked a bit about how the upcoming bill is going to have an impact, and maybe as the cloud footprint grows in India, organizations in India have the options of looking at clouds within the geographic spans of India. So to help you with any future bills that are there. And also the tall, dark, and handsome groom that we have, which is AI, which has a place according to our esteemed panelist over here. There is a place for AI to help in compliance in the cloud also. With this, I want to thank each one of my panelists for a wonderful discussion and your thoughts and your time today. And I would like to hand the baton back to Bhavna. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Jackson. You have a flair to your moderation. I must say that the way you moderate, you keep everyone so engaged. And thank you once again for giving us your valuable time. Also with this, I'd like to personally thank Mayuresh, Mansi, Sheikh, J. Ahmad and Shashank for giving us your valuable time, because it all is all about sharing. It is all your expertise which brings this platform so great. Thank you once again. Right now at the World Cloud Show India, I'd like to once again thank our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trescon. Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mansi. Thank you.